Tonight's second place finisher. Plenty of fans here, Brett, and a solid second place finish.
Yeah, I got to shout out the Turn 2 Terror Boys over there. They're all a bunch of good guys to hang out with, talk to. I really like them.
What's going on, everybody? Turn 2 Terribles back again with another episode. It is December 26th. I hope everybody had a fantastic Christmas. I am Jimmy. I'm here with Jay-Z and Chris. We want to thank everybody for coming in and checking us out. You guys have a good Christmas?
Oh, yeah? For sure. You got Jordan claws with the sweatshirt stuff, so we're good there.
Gevler calls. I like it. Yeah, man, it was great. Good time with the kids. I got twin toddlers, 3 years old. It's prime time gift giving, season for them, and they had a great time with it. It was a great experience.
Good. Yeah, I had a pretty good Christmas. I hope everybody else out there that's joining us had a great Christmas. Thank you guys for joining us. If you can, make sure you like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you're just watching us for the first time. We're just a bunch of guys that really like sprint car racing here in Central PA, and we're getting to interview a lot of amazing drivers and crew members, getting to know them a lot more, getting to know their story more than just their on-track results, and it's been a blast doing this. So we appreciate everybody joining us and checking us out.
It has been great, and again, spread the message. We're going to hopefully continue doing this till racing season starts with a variety of guests. We have some good things in the works right now that reach a little bit beyond Central PA, just a little bit beyond Central PA. But we're working on some things in the background, and but tonight we're going to stay solidly in Central PA, and tonight we're going to welcome in Kody Hartlaub first, 358 driver, and excited to have him on and see what he's got to say.
Let's bring him in. Kody, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us.
Hey guys. Yep. All right. Everybody have a good Christmas?
Yeah, man. How about you?
Dakota Kuhn says beautiful sweetheart, by the way.
Oh my. It's going to be a fun one. Kody, how was your Christmas, buddy?
Good. Busy like normal, but everything went good, and got everything that we kind of wanted, and get on with the baby coming here soon, and that's kind of main priority and all that fun stuff. So just keep on keeping on, I guess.
Yes, sir. So I want to get into all of that. Let's get started here. You have had a busy year, almost basically a complete full year now. You had a really good season under your belt last year, got in all your races plus some. A little bit of background, if some folks, I'd have to know you by now, I think around Central PA, the results kind of speak for that. And, Hartlaub is definitely a Central PA name. I think it's definitely may not be I guess it's a pretty big racing name, I think. Tell me about your background, any other family in racing? Where'd you get your start, and how did you get here?
Yeah, so my mom's a Duncan and my dad's a Hartlaub. They've both kind of been around racing forever, as far as I know. My grandpa raced on my mom's side. My mom's brother raced. His son raced. And then, on my dad's side, my dad's uncles raced, and there was some racing. My dad's brother raced a little bit and stuff like that. So yeah, I kind of grew up around it. I kind of started when I was like 4 or 5 years old in RC cars, and then we went from that to go karts when I think was 8, and then we just kind of progressed from there.
So 358 this past year. How many seasons in a 358? Not full complete seasons, but how many years have you been in a 358?
My first quote unquote full season year was well, wasn't even full, was 2016. We ran a handful of shows then. 2017, we kind of did the same thing. 2018 was gonna be my first full year. Then we ended up missing, I think, a race or two there. 2019, I didn't race at all. 2020 was another handful of races, and then last year and this year were really my first full seasons.
Okay, so my first question is, which wing design do you like best?
I don't know. I like the 5x5 because it makes it a lot easier, like we did this year when we rented a 410 and bolted that in, and you don't have to like change anything. But I seem to race better with the 3x5, but the 5x5, like the cars act a lot different. That was one thing like I noticed definitely when we came back with the 5x5 was like we run a lot more brake now than I used to, and like the cars just obviously react a lot different with that much more downforce.
So I've heard a lot of that, and I think as an outsider spectator fan, the 5x5 makes so much sense for that division. Even if the engine rules aren't quite 360, right? It's the rest of the country. We're still a little weird here in Central PA for sure. But even if they got the 5x5, I think does it help you though transition even driving style to a 410 better than it would have otherwise?
I don't know. It's tough to say because I only ran one time this year in the 410, and then a couple times last year. But like the motor, like I know you talk to some guys and they'll say like it's not that big of a difference from a 358 to a 410, but like for me it was like when we rented it for that Stevie Smith race this year, like it was like it took me all the practice to get kind of hands on with it, and then like we weren't too bad in the heat race, and then kind of got in a wreck there with Tyler Esh, but we ran the C main, transferred from that to the B, and came up a little bit through the B. But like the biggest thing I noticed was like I had to go talk to Alan Crimes about it. I was like, man, like these things just set on the left rear off the corner, and they just want to drive left, drive straight to the wall. Like, man, what do I got to do? He's like, how are you using the throttle? I was like, well, I'm kind of driving it like 358. He's like, no. He's like, put an egg under that thing, pretend that there's an egg there. You got to be easy. And, it helped. Definitely helped.
Yeah, it was funny hearing that and talking with Brett Strickler a couple weeks ago, and it was kind of the same thing. He was throttle happy, but he didn't even know he was because you just don't know. 358, he's like, you got to kind of anticipate and you get the throttle to it, and it gets going. Not saying they're slow by any means, but the 410 is just a different animal with the combination of that dramatically more horsepower and a lot less weight. So you put those two things together, you got a rocket ship under your foot for sure. So let's talk about 2022 2022 ran how many total races? Do you know a count?
I think it was 23 or 24, something like that.
Okay. And how many wins did you have?
0 this year.
Okay. So I want to talk about that. And I did that on purpose, not to be like, hey, 0 wins. Yeah. But the consistency you had this season was nothing short of incredible to me in a division that is difficult to do. The amount of hard chargers, if they announce that, hard chargers, or, again, I feel like all the people I'm kind of close with a little bit had shitty draws all year between you, Brett, and Kyle. I don't know what the deal is, but
sounds like a Jay-Z problem, if I may.
Maybe I picked the wrong people to be close with here. I don't know.
Maybe they picked the wrong guy to be close with.
There were so many nights at Lincoln that the speed of your car. Well, I'm gonna put two things out there. I'm gonna let you kind of discuss. First is the nights where you had the bad draw and you got to work your ass off. Then the nights where you have the good draw and for whatever reason your heat didn't go the way you planned and you missed the redraw. That happened a couple times as well. First of all, the nights. Let's start with the nights where you just don't draw. What is your mindset like when you go back to the trailer after someone or yourself draws that pill? Where's your mindset at? What is your goal throughout the night?
It's kind of the same it is every week. I mean, you go out there and you try to do the best you can as soon as you hit the racetrack, every time you hit the racetrack. And, some nights it's tough. Some nights, you get lucky with the pill draw, and some nights you don't. And I mean, you can't. That was kind of one thing Jim Siegel taught me, like especially with the 410s qualifying all the time. It's like you're not always going to qualify good, and he's like, it is what it is, and you got to make do with what you got. And I mean, yeah, you can complain about it, but at the end of the night, your job's to do your best and get the job done, and that's kind of what you have to do.
So when you have those nights and you're racing for a points title, obviously you want to win every race, but it's in that division. It's hard to race from 14th to the win in a 358, right? So you're going to do the best you can in your heat. Do you ever go into the feature kind of preserve equipment, pass when you can? Where's your patience aggressive line fall there?
That's something that I struggled with a lot, especially at the beginning of the season. Was like I'll go out there and you ride around the first couple laps and you're like, let's get through this. Let's not tear some stuff up. Let's get single or like lined up here, and then we can start passing cars. Well, with the deal there at Lincoln, like you got 20 laps and that's all you got. Well, you sit down for 5 laps, you only got 15 laps to get where you need to go, and by the time the cautions come out or something happens, you're cut down to 6 laps before you know it. And like that was one thing I really tried to get done at the end of the year was go from the beginning. Like you have to go, especially like if you're in a night where you have a bad heat race or a bad draw and you start farther back, and you got Owings up front, you got like all these guys there's probably I'd say at least 5, 6, 7 guys that can win every week, maybe more. And like when they're starting up front and everybody races hard, and when they're starting up front, you start back, like you got to go because you got to get there.
So one more, and I'll throw it to Jimmy and Chris here. Some of the nights this past season where you did have a good draw and you started up front, I can only maybe count 2 or 3 of these where you got passed by a car or two, right? So most of the season I've seen you race through the field, pass cars under all conditions, all track types, all conditions, running where they're not, running in the non-optimal line and passing cars. What did you learn from some of those nights where you just miss it on the setup? Tell me a little bit about some of those nights.
We kind of did something the last 2 years that's not necessarily common with the sprint car stuff. At least with the wing stuff is like we ran coilovers in the front for the last 2 years, and like when the track's heavy or if you're in the first heat race or something like that, like they don't work that well. Like you struggle with the car, you struggle with handling and stuff like that. And like I'll be the first to tell you, like it wasn't just that. Like yes, I've made mistakes and stuff, but it definitely doesn't help. And that was one thing that we kind of really tuned on throughout the year was how to make the coils better throughout. When the track's heavy, when the track's not optimal, because in the future time when the track's like I think there's nothing better, but like you got to get there, and to get there you have to get through heat races, and it's just everything kind of runs in line with each other. So
yeah, and I mean I didn't want you to have to say 0 wins out loud to poke any fun at you at all, because you had in my opinion, you had a hell of a season. And I know that's not the results you wanted to be. You want to be in victory lane with the checkered flag, but the consistency and it really does show again and again the competitiveness of that division, right? So to me, you're one of the top 3, 4 guys in that division, regardless of experience, and week in and week out, and you had 0 wins, right? But you had a phenomenal season as far as consistency and your equipment for the most part, right? So do you look back at 2022 and consider that a win based on some of the years you've had in the past with equipment issues, some tough luck, some other things?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like when I started in 2016, like I really had, one car, one motor, one everything. And, that's what I had. And then it was kind of the same way all up until about probably the end of 2021 till like this year. Like we picked up a really good sponsor with Pat Brewer, and like he keeps telling me, he's like, I have this 5-year deal. He's like, within 5 years, I want to have, this, and this. Well, the end of last year, we bought a trailer. So now we have a nice trailer, and now it's like, now we have spare parts. And now this year we're going to have 2 complete race ready cars. And it's like each year we're stepping up more and more and more. And that's what you have to do. I mean, like, yes, we're technically a support class and all that, but when it all boils down to it, it's not that much different than the 410s besides the motors, because you need the best of the best equipment, you need spares, you need all that. And like I would say for sure this year was definitely, a good win. I think with Rich doing the with the PR work and all that stuff, and I think by the end of the year we had 130 plus cars passed in the feature. So that just means I suck at heat races, but other than that, not too bad.
So you're talking about all these improvements and continuing to build every year. What do you have going in for 2023? Building upon that, what's new for the team?
Gonna have two motors for sure. Got a good engine builder with Steve Rucker. You can't argue that. We're moving shops. For the last 2 years, I shared a shop with Alan Crimes. He ended up buying a house and all that stuff, and he has a shop there now. And luckily, my parents went ahead and we're building a really nice shop at my parents' house, and we're in the middle of moving there. And then on top of that, I have a kid coming in January, so it's gonna get real busy real quick here.
We were just able to flash up a couple pictures there. A little preview.
So pictures, new shop. There's going to be some more changes, I know, with the team. You're going to talk about coming up here soon. But let's talk about that, man. When's baby due?
January 26th, so exactly 1 month from now. But I'm telling you right now, it'll probably be within the next, I'd say, 2 to 3 weeks.
So first of all, congratulations. If we don't see you before that or talk to you, and do you know what you're having? Did you do a review?
Yeah, we're having a girl. Her name's going to be Addison. So
okay,
yeah, should be,
you got know the gender and you have a name picked out. You're ahead of like 99% of other fathers at this point, probably.
We have the nurseries done, the bassinets in the room, the bags packed for the hospital. We're ready to go.
Can confirm you are weeks ahead of me. My daughter was due January 26th. We figured it all out when she came on January 18th. So you're killing it, bud.
So you have three options. Option A, excited. Option B, terrified. And C, both of the above.
C, definitely C.
For sure, right? That's yeah. We've been there for sure. Chris, what do you got?
No, I mean, to piggyback on it, definitely C. Definitely terrified. I guess the question, Kody, that comes to my head is, what made you want to race sprint cars? Like, who did you look up to growing up? What drivers out there or whoever that made you want to race a sprint car?
So, obviously my grandpa raced and stuff, and he went from late models to sprint cars. But the number one driver that I can remember, from when I was really young, was Kevin Gobrick. Awesome. I looked up to him, big time. Yeah, I was only 3-4 years old when he passed away, but my family on my dad's side actually helped sponsor him when he was in the 92 car. And, I always looked up to him. And then, Jim Siegel, Steve Siegel, all those guys, and they're part of the reason why I'm where I'm at today. And, that's kind of who I looked up to. And I don't know, I've just always, liked racing and always wanted to race. And I don't know, it's just one of those sicknesses, I guess, you get, and you kind of can't get rid of it.
Right. And I guess the piggyback with that, you said Kevin Gobrick. I really liked looking back on his career. One of his favorite cars you've driven. What do you have as far as one of his favorite schemes, or which car that you remember most with Kevin Gobrick?
Probably, definitely, it's between the Amco car and the Zemco car. Those two were awesome. I like the 92 car just because my family kind of helped sponsor him there, and
right.
We have a little tie-in with that. So
yeah, that Amico car is my favorite. I had that diecast. It's one of my favorite ones. So
yeah, that's a classic for sure. So for 2023, what does your schedule look like? I know Lincoln's schedule came out. I know that was kind of like when we talked to the guys the last couple of weeks, was they were kind of waiting for schedules to come out and formulate. But going to run for a Lincoln title again this year? Is that the plan?
Yeah, we're gonna do all Lincoln, definitely all Williams Grove. I'm told Path Valley is supposed to have a couple, so we'll see about that. Just told Port possibly has some, so we're definitely going to focus Lincoln, Williams Grove, but the goal is to run all the 358 races there are, depending on no matter where they're at. So we'll just kind of see how the schedule falls and kind of go from there. If we would have some off weeks, we're trying to we did get a new car. We're going to put that together as a new car. We were kind of looking at, a little bit for a 410. We thought about trying to run 4 or 5 or 6 shows with that, on off weeks. But right now it's really hard to find anything. So we might just have a new car there with the second 358 in it. But we'll see how that goes.
So you talked about a 410 there briefly, and I gave Chris and Jimmy a little trivia earlier on the background because I knew the answer to this. So because I get to talk to you here and there, you said you ran a 410 this past season. You talked about that experience a little bit. Tell us what race that was at, why that race, and how you put it all together for that day.
So it was the Steve Smith tribute at Lincoln. I really wanted to race that race because, like where I work for Moose Blocks, and we're tied in heavily with Stevie and Nikki and all those guys. And not just that. Like I said, Steve and Jim Siegel earlier. Nikki's obviously Steve's daughter and Jim's sister, and they've helped me tremendously. When I started helping them in 2019 till now, basically, I don't want to say everything, but basically everything goes through Steve before I do it. And him and Jim are definitely one of my biggest mentors. And because of that, I wanted to support, Lincoln, support Stevie, support everybody for that race. I know it probably wasn't one of the best races, to run a 410 for and go out there and try to make it. But, we went there, we went to support them, and that's what we went and did, and we had fun doing it. So.
And where did you get an engine to run that day?
So obviously, like through Moose Blocks, also I have some connections, and we were able to rent one through Bobby Allen. It was one of Jacob's motors, and thanks to Landon for coming over and helping, get it ready and going through the valves and all that stuff with me. Thanks to Newman and thanks to Bobby for making that happen.
And it's crazy that day. I remember kind of leading into it. You talked about it. You're going to get out for that race, and being at that race and watching it. And you're right. It was like, if you're going to choose one, maybe that's not the one because you want to run all the laps. You want to if you're going to do it right, but there was a bigger reason and purpose for that race. So totally understandable. But dude, I was so hyped watching you race that day, and like you were competitive. That C main, I think, did you run second or win it?
I ran second. So it was kind of funny the way all that worked out was, so that was when Steve Owings was in the 21 car for Parrish. And so me and him lined up on the front row for the C main. We finished 1-2 for that. And then that was the same night Chris Frank ran in a motor from, I think, Lefevre. And we ended up finishing the B main. It was back to back to back, all the 358 guys. So I was like, wow, this is
perfect.
Yeah.
So my question is, like, that experience, how was that? Obviously it was a deeper meaning for you to go just be in the show to take part in it. So like, what was that experience like?
Oh, it was awesome. You obviously look back at it and, if you could change this or change that and do better, but it was still awesome. I don't know if they're going to do that race again, but just to say that, we supported it and was there for that, that was cool. And like, just once again, you don't know how many times. I mean, what if, you never get to run a 410 and,
right.
Just to get to say, we did it and, I had fun and definitely want to go back and do it again. But just, all that stuff, because you don't know what happens, don't know if you ever get one, never know if you get a chance again. So just had to make the best of what we did.
You ran a lot of laps at Lincoln Speedway. Were you more nervous for the hot lap session or the time trial?
Time trial for sure.
I would assume that, but the first time on there is the hot lap. Okay, I could get it. You're with other cars. You could hide maybe a little bit, but that time trial, man, it's game on, right? Like it's
yeah, I was not good at all in time trials, but we made up for it a little bit in the heat race there before we got together with Esh. But no, I still the number one thing I remember from that night was when we went into the B main and like I was going to pass Owings and he was in the 21 car and I thought I went to run the bottom to pass him, and here next thing I know I'm sliding him. I'm like, I hope somebody got a picture of that because I'm going to tell him I slid Brian Monteith.
That's awesome.
One of the things this season that really stood out to me, and you talked a couple times, you talked to a lot of guys in the pits, and walking through the pits and being in the pits a lot this year, I've noticed that a lot of the drivers do chat with each other, and you may not be super close friends, but there's guys you can lean on and talk to, and you're close to, and you seem to be a guy who can kind of go up and down pit road and bend anybody's ear. and and even if it's a direct competitor, right? So one of the things that stood out to me this past season, was an incident on pit road. Just happened to be in there with Nat Tuckey, with a truck, with one of the push truck drivers, and I believe you ended up letting him borrow the wing. Is that correct?
Yeah, so it was actually one of our good friends was unfortunately the push truck driver, and he suffered a medical emergency there, and Nat was just kind of there and an innocent bystander. So I did. It was right in front of my trailer, and like I knew Nat. He didn't. I know him. Not that great, but if I ever need something, he'll help me out, and that's kind of how I try to be. Like we're parked next to Stricklers and all those guys, and we're there to you're there to race, but if somebody else needs help, like you go to help them, and Nat didn't have a top wing or nothing like that, and so we pulled mine down and was able to get it all switched out so he could go out there and race, and that's just kind of part of racing too. We're there for the competitiveness, but at the same point, you got to help out where you can.
So, who helps you get up and I say up and down the road, like you travel a lot, but who helps you get to the racetrack every week with the team? Who's with you every week?
So, typically we have shop nights Mondays and Wednesdays, and then I'll go down early Saturdays or Fridays or whatever it is, whatever night we're racing. But so my dad's there every night, every week. My sponsor that we picked up last year, Pat Brewer, he's there every night, every week when he can be. And me and him, and we picked up Jared. He came on at the end, kind of halfway through end of this year, and he's been a help too. And those guys, like my dad works on Saturdays and Friday, like till 5 on Fridays, so it's hard for him to ride with us to the track. So he meets us there, and then like me, Pat, and Jared go in the truck, and we go up to whatever race we're going to, and we have 3 or 4 guys, and I have some guys like Troy comes and helps me at Williams Grove, or Dakota does when he's not busy, and Austin Funk, like I have some guys that come along to the track or come to the track if I need help, and we have a good group of guys. So,
you talked about Pat Brewer. Obviously, his name on the car. Do you have Jimmy? You got a picture of the car handy there to put up? So, as we look at the car for everybody watching, Pat Brewer, see the big name on the side of the car. By the way, one of the cleaner paint schemes out there. Appreciate white all the time. Thank you. As a photographer, white is awesome.
Take
so
notes, Hal Keen and Troy Walker.
Yeah, don't change it. But Pat Brewer, tell us a little bit about that. I see it's Home Improvements LLC, and he's obviously been a great sponsor to you. But what you said, he's also at the shop. So tell me a little bit about that relationship.
Yeah. So basically, the way I got to meet him was he went to school with my dad, and my dad ended up just reaching out to him. I think it was 2021, like halfway through the year, he just threw him a Facebook message and was like, hey, would you be interested in helping out on the car? And he said, name a price. And my dad threw him a price, and he said, okay, come get the check today. And so that's basically how I met him. And we went over to his house, and it kind of just grew from there. And then, he stepped up, and, he helps me out a bunch, and, he bought the trailer. He helps on the car a bunch, and he helps. Like right now is his busy time of the year. He goes to New Jersey. That's where he does a lot of his work. So he'll come back for the weekends, but through the week he's gone. Yeah, like throughout, the year when he comes back from New Jersey, he's there every shop night. He's there every race night, and, big help.
Jimmy, Chris, anything else from you guys?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, you got Rookie of the Year honors at Williams Grove, 5th in points. Was there something that you were able to learn, from there, throughout the year that you could take into next season to help yourself improve?
Yeah, we weren't even planning on running Williams Grove this year until we heard about, Trailways closing. Like our goal this year was going to be Trailways in Lincoln. But with Trailways closing, that kind of opened up our Friday nights. And then they had a couple of rainouts there at the beginning of the year, and we only had one motor. So like we were kind of debating on, do we push it? Do we not push it? What do we do? And so they had a couple of rainouts in a row, and then we ended up having, I think it was 9 or 8 or 7 races or something like that. They got in, and we hit all of them. And what I learned is, it may suck watching at Williams Grove, but it's really fun to race there. I love racing Williams Grove.
And go ahead.
I just want to point out that Cody's not my favorite because he said that Williams Grove's his favorite track, basically.
I don't know if I'd go quite that
Oh,
far.
hey, now, buddy. that was actually going to lead into my question was, you obviously ran this year a lot at Williams Grove, and the difference was, like, how much fun it is to drive versus what maybe a fan would see versus saying a race at Lincoln that a fan's watching driver-wise also.
Yeah,
Words.
it's I don't know how to describe it, because Lincoln's fast, yes. Lincoln gets wide, yes. But the Grove is just different because you got dirty air you got to deal with and all that. And like that was one thing I learned at the end of the year. I think it was the very last race was like we were so far left and like you get so locked down on left rear there that it gets interesting. And the closing rates are a lot faster. If you screw up, the guys are right there. And like we ran second there, and if I played my cards right, we may have been able to win one of those races. But it was just fun experience just to be able to race at the historic Williams Grove. So
awesome. I had one more question.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I was just curious. We've seen a couple guys maybe go to like run URC at Port Royal or Williams Grove. Is anything that might be in the cards for next year, or never
we'll
really
see.
thought about it?
I mean, from what it sounds like, the 358 deal was supposed to be, I know it looked like Lincoln may have dropped a race or two, but I think Williams Grove was supposed to pick up a race or two. So we'll see how that works out. But it all kind of depends on how the schedule works because, at the beginning of the year, you're kind of hammered every week. And then at the end of the year, it seems like we only race once a month. So, like, we'll kind of see and play our cards there and see, where we're at equipment-wise and stuff by that point. But I'm not sure yet. Who knows? I mean, like I said, our main goal was to try to get a 410 and on those off weeks, try to run that. But who knows? I mean, we still got to get a motor and, see if we can even find one. So we'll see. We'll just, right now our goal is all the 358 races and we'll fill it in with whatever we can. So
awesome.
What are your thoughts on Baps Motor Speedway? Do you like that place?
I do. Personally, we only ran there once this year, and that was my first time there since 2018, I think it was. I had a really good race there with Jade and a couple guys, and I think we ended up running third, I think it was there. And, I think it definitely, that would be a track that I wish had more races.
Yeah,
it was not, the perfect feature. We had a lot of wrecks and all that, but like racing wise, that was one of the few tracks come feature time we were sliding each other and you could do it. And I really wish they would pick up more races for us there.
I have always enjoyed the racing there, and I think that there was a period where it seemed like when the 410s were there, 358s were there a lot with them. And then that sort of just faded away recently. And I don't know why, because I think with the wing design, with the 5x5, I think that place race is probably better with that wing. And the closing rates, and I think it's a mix between short track and a big track. And it's always raced well on a 410. I could imagine it doing well on a 358 as well. And guys that may start 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th really could have some opportunities to pass cars with that mix of big track, little track feel, where Lincoln can be hard sometimes because it's a little track, and then Williams Grove is just so aero dependent that it's hard to just make up the ground. So I think it would be the perfect mix. I really wish it had more opportunities for you guys to race on it. Have you raced Port Royal before?
I have never raced Port, but to go back with the BAPS thing also I wanted to add was that was the first time that they ever left us, or I should say I was ever a part of, was the hot lap time trial deal. And, for me, like, I hate pulling pills, but, that hot lap time trial thing, that was cool. And, that was something that I wish, they would pick up, almost everywhere. I think that's the kind of the fairest way to do it. You time against your heat race and, then you know what you got compared to, like, not saying it's easy by any means, but, on a night there where, I'll pull a 50 pill and Owing Straws the 5 pill, that's a big difference. So, that was cool. But no, I've never been to Port. I do want to go to Port, but never been there.
I'm wondering if maybe a URC show or something, if you could get tied with that. I've seen some 358 guys do that. and compete fairly well. And I think your program is strong enough that you could probably compete and get some at least laps under your belt. I don't know how many times they are there this year, but that might be a cool opportunity for you. I wanted to ask you that earlier, and I got sidetracked on my thoughts. If you had it your way, would you ever handicap with a pill draw ever again, or would you like to do the time groups?
I think the time groups is the fairest way to do it. There's never really one perfect solution. It's not going to be. Everybody's going to have a different opinion, and you got to respect that. But I just think that deal is the most even way to do it. Personally, I think the way they did it was top 4 in your heat was inverted, so then they would start 4th, and then I forget how it was. It was fastest heat winner and fastest guy out of the heat were the guys that free drew for the future, I think it was. And I just think that's the fairest way to do it.
Yeah, and I think with the division that you guys, a 358 division, we've talked about a ton being so competitive. And sometimes if you're the second division, you don't always have the raciest racetrack. So if you are a guy like yourself, and the idea of handicapping, not only, first of all, pill draw, but then if you do make the invert, you won the week before, where are you starting?
12th, I think it is.
12th,
I
right?
think it's 10th or 12th. I think they may have changed it to 10th this year, but it's somewhere around there.
Something like that. That's hard to do, right? Even if you're a good car, 10th place is hard to do when you do maybe have an Owings or a Jaden or, a Strickler or multitude of guys, a Fletcher, right? That's hard to do. It's hard to go past all those guys, and that's supposed to be. But at the same time, and you're also sort of getting penalized for being a fast guy. So it doesn't make a lot of sense when there's 6, 8, 10 of you. If all 10 of you were fast and you're in the top 10, it could be a hell of a race, right? You don't have to you don't have to start 10th. So Brad Ferry actually had a question in the chat there. Who was your favorite driver growing up? And I know you talked about Kevin Gobrecht a little bit. After, unfortunately, Gobrecht passed, did you have someone else you tended to follow along with?
Not
as you got older.
In sprint car side, not really, honestly, because around that age, I watched a lot, and I mean a lot of NASCAR, and my favorite guy was always Jeff Gordon. Just
my man. Let's go.
He came from
buying
the
the T-shirt.
and...
I'll buy the T-shirt tomorrow morning, buddy.
Chris Lynn gonna be your number 1 fan now.
Anything we can do to get him out of the JG stuff. So.
No. Jordan's a nice guy.
Hey, I am being told in a back channel chat that the Steve Smith race is on next year again for 2023. So
that leads me into a thought I had.
Yeah,
Kody, you talked about you have 4 to 6 hopeful 410 races this year. Is that your ultimate goal, to go 410 racing at some point down the road? Is that your vision?
Yeah, for sure. In a perfect world, I realize, I'm kind of old now. I'm 27, so I'm no Cam, I'm no any of that, and if I could get a deal where I could race weekly in a 410, Williams Grove, Lincoln, whatever, I would be content with that. That's our goal, and that's my goal, is to get to that point.
That's awesome.
So how do you think it's going to go for 2023 with a newborn and racing season? What's the wife have to say about that?
Well, that's one of the bonuses of building the shop at my parents' house. So we have a built-in, babysitter. So, I think it'd be good because we do have our dedicated shop notes, but we take care of the schedule. I'm not here. We do a lot of running because racing, you're always gone. You're always getting parts or at the shop or whatever. And that's one of the things that sucks about not having it at your house. But you still got to make time for your family. So
absolutely.
We'll get you wrapped up here. Tell us a little bit about the sponsors you have. We talked about Brewer, but helped you out with a little project over the winter here, and the list is long. So tell us who helps you out with your program.
So obviously Pat Brewer with Brewer Home Improvements, Moose Blocks where I work. Steve, Susan, they're really big supporters and really helped me out a ton. Stevie Smith Tie, same deal, helped me out a ton. Then we picked one up last year that was Travis Laub with T&N Solutions. You probably know him from running the red, white, and blue tow truck at Lincoln. phenomenal, guy and great people. And, they helped out a ton with this garage build. He came over and did all the excavating and all that stuff. And, so he helped out a ton. We got Brandon. Brandon, I went to him now for designs for the last 2 years, and he helps me out. Her Electric, Pretzel Boy. Trying to think here. Who else do we got? Barbie Miller Realtors.
Appraisal.
Yep. I was gonna say CH Falk and Sons. He helped me out. When he was one of Jim's biggest supporters, and he helped me out a ton. He him Haas Shocks, Bigum Appraisals. All those guys. We still have a big sideboard open, but we're grateful for the help that we do have.
And keep an eye out on Kody's socials, some of his PR coming out here in the next, 30, 45 days maybe. Keep an eye out. There'll be some other things coming out for 2023, some cool, exciting stuff from Addicted to Dirt, right? You're with Rich with Addicted to Dirt. He does some of your PR stuff, and got to know Rich pretty well this past season. He does a great job. And, I know he's a big supporter of yours and does a good job for you.
Yeah, for sure. That was one thing, I reached out to him, I think it was the beginning of last year, and I asked him, I said, like, my whole goal was, you got all these people that are racing 358s, and, you got your guys in the 410s, but like, I was trying to make myself stand out from the rest of the 358 guys. And I'm like, what can I do to do this? And, PR and releases like that was one of the biggest things. Chase does a great job with doing his, in the shop videos and stuff like that. But, I think Rich really helped me, step up my game and, help, just get my name out there.
Awesome. Guys have anything before let Kody out of here?
Nah, I look forward to seeing your season, buddy. I want to see how it goes. Cheering for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, man, appreciate you having you on. Jimmy, were you gonna go ahead? Sorry.
No, I just wanted to thank you for spending some time with us and sitting down and coming on and chopping it up.
Yeah, for sure.
Hey, good luck with fatherhood. Greatest time and most difficult and challenging and awesome and frustrating and amazing time you'll ever experience. All of that, dude. You're gonna be great. I know it. Good luck in 2023. And I want to make it a point to let you know when you win on a Friday or Saturday night, you're going to come back here on a Monday, and I'm going to ask you how many races you won this year, and you get to say at least one. Okay.
Before we get to that point, we're going to burn down victory lane for you. So,
yes, absolutely, man. Hey, good luck to you. Happy holidays. Good luck to you, and we'll see you down the road, buddy.
Alrighty, thank you, guys.
Thanks, Kody. Appreciate it, buddy.
Thanks, Kody.
Thanks, Kody, for joining us. We'll be right back. We're going to take about 2-minute break or so, and we'll have Brandon Rahmer on when we come back. Don't go away. All right, guys, welcome back. I want to thank Kody again. We're going to bring on our next guest here. Jeremy, you want to introduce our next guest?
Yeah, so want to thank Brandon a whole lot. Brandon Rahmer, obviously we know the Rahmer name. If you're watching this, you very likely know this name, but may not know Brandon that well. And we wanted to get Brandon on here and really appreciate him taking time out of his busy schedule, which we're going to get into a little bit, and how busy he is these days. So welcome, Brandon, to the show. How's it going, man? How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Hey, Chris, you're camera focused. Maybe move yourself out, move yourself back.
I'm trying, buddy. I'm trying.
There you go. Now,
Hey, there.
There
Look,
you go.
hey, let's
This
magic.
is about Brandon.
You're right. But you know what, Chris? You're so pretty, man. We got to make sure you're in
That's
focus. Everyone's got to see
Absolutely
this.
false.
So, all right, Brandon. So a lot of people probably know the Rahmer name. Okay, that's not much of a secret, but I can tell you as maybe a 410 snob, sprint car snob, I don't, maybe if there's a lot of people like me, they may not know your whole history, your racing career and history. And I think I know a little bit, but I think I might not even know the beginning. So can you go back a little bit and tell us a little bit about your racing career, when you got started? I mean, I know you were born into it, but when you actually started driving?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't, only really started racing when I was 14. It was kind of hard. Dad racing all the time, every weekend. We really didn't even go through quarter midgets, didn't do anything when we were younger, but we raced them speedsters for about, I think it had to be about 5-6 years. We were like traveling around with Richie Tobias when this Speedway entertainment, really started bringing them out. And honestly, it was a lot of fun. We went to Williams Grove, Lincoln Speedway. I've been up to Weedsport with it. Paradise Speedway, Dunhill, 5 Mile Point. A couple tracks that, like I said, 5 Mile Point's gone. So that was cool traveling around there. I mean, 410 racing for me, kind of is consistently around Lincoln. So a series where you travel is, something different. It kept me kind of a little bit more fresh, but it was something we did every now and again. I think only really raced about 15, 18 times, but, when we were racing Kutztown too, we only raced there 1 year till we actually started to get out of it. But on Wednesdays, my dad was able to go with. That was a cool experience. It was totally different. I mean, it's easy to go to the racetrack and help my old man out. And I started later than what Freddie did, but then you actually get behind the wheel of something and kind of put into perspective of, how hard driving is, all that goes into it. It definitely was a learning curve, but did them, like I said, for 5 years with speedsters. Only did about, I think, only 5 races in a 305, and we really just only got the car going. We had I think I only finished about 3 out of the 5 races, and Dad told us, time to go 410 racing, and that was it. Then we went 410 racing. So I was kind of a little bit more green to it. I didn't get, no 358s for 1 or 2 years. Didn't really get to do much 305 racing, traveling around. But like I said, jumping into a 410, it was a big learning curve. And I'm obviously still learning. But, it's like I said, I wouldn't want to do it any other way, but it's just the way how things worked out too.
So that's funny just hearing that, because I learned something that I didn't know. I guess I just safely assumed that you and Freddie started at the same time, raced all the same things, did all the same stuff, and kind of here you are. Not that makes a difference, but I don't know if I knew that. And I knew you did speedsters. I don't know if I even knew the 305 races, because I think at that time when you went through that, I don't know if I was following 305s much. And I don't know if I remember that. And again, it was only maybe 5 races, so it's easy to forget even if I did know, right? So
yeah, honestly, I forget about them.
Right.
So, in the seasons in those speedsters, that's obviously, I've seen those things run. They kind of look like a handful, even though you may not be going blazingly fast. They look pretty competitive, close, tight racing. What did you take the most from those cars that you could take anywhere into a 410? To me, from an outsider, as a big dumb fan, I would say nothing, because there's not a lot of similarities there. But what did you take from that, if anything?
I'd say probably a couple things. I mean, at the time, like Richie was trying to bring in bigger name drivers like Rick Eckert, Billy Pouch, Kenny Brightbill. So, I mean, I'm 17, 18 years old racing with them guys at Kutztown. So, I mean, you really couldn't beat that. That's like going to the Chili Bowl and racing against them guys. But like I said, I couldn't do that on a week in, week out deal. But I'd say they're kind of like a midget / modified the way they handle. You definitely steer a lot more with them. I mean, after getting into a sprint car, you turn the wheel a couple inches and it steers right in. With a speedster, you're hacksaw on the wheel, and at least that's what I was doing. But so there was kind of some transitioning things that it's just kind of like when the 358s had them smaller dished wings, guys were dropping their arms a lot more going in, versus now with the 5x5 wing, they got to be a lot smoother. They don't steer as much.
Right.
They might be a little heavier and bog on the curb or something, but just something little to get used to like that. But really, they were affordable race cars to run. I had a lot of fun doing it. It was pretty good pricing when we were in them for running them week in, week out, and they raced for really good money. I mean, I don't know where else you could say you ran for $2 to $3 grand on a Wednesday, at Kutztown, and I could reuse tires 2 to 3 times. I could really, didn't really go through many parts until I fucked something up, but
Right.
it was a good deal all around. And like I said, I'd love to do it again, but after being in a sprint car, you can't really beat it.
So that's where my question comes in. What, I guess, caused your dad to tell you you're going from a 305s after 5 races to hey, it's 410 time? Like what goes into that thought process?
And
did
honestly,
you agree with it? I guess as a follow up.
I mean, I didn't. Like I said, you say 410. It's you want to do it.
Right.
I really think that, and honestly, whatever my dad says, I got to do. So it's kind of there's no arguing.
Fair enough.
I would say probably just when it comes to payout, when I get 305 to 410, I mean, you could win every race in a 305, and unless you're traveling around, like I think down in Texas they race for like $1,000 or whatever, but I think $300 at the time is what you were making to win. So you go starting pay for a 410 race where you make $300 to $400 and start to learn the cars more and the horsepower and how they handle, or just stay in 305s and kind of it would have been, like I said, that's just what we were kind of my dad wanted to do. We had the help during the time with sponsors and everything, and we got two or three 12 heads and stuff that we ran for the first 2-3 years. So those motors held together pretty well from Don Ott. And honestly, those motors, I think I went quickest around Lincoln until Hotnet beat me at like 12.7 the one night.
That's a hell of a guy to get beat by, to be fair.
Yeah. I only had it for like 20 seconds anyway, but
put that in your diary. That's perfect.
Yeah.
So when you first you do the speedsters and you kind of learn how to race a little bit, right? You watch Dad growing up your whole life, and you've been at the racetrack, you get it. But once you get behind the wheel, you start to learn, right? You really start to go, okay, this is hard. How to set up a pass or some of the racecraft stuff. But when you got into 410 for the first time, and did it feel like it was 9,000 miles per hour? Like, was it overwhelming?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, obviously nerves get the better of you. I mean, obviously just kind of remembering to breathe and, getting used to the size of the car was probably the biggest issue that I had. But, like Freddie, having him and me, because we started at the same time with 410s, he had more 305 experience, but that was only about 20-something shows. And, everything when it comes to driving a 410, like you said, it's the quickest thing on dirt. So I don't know how you can't struggle or get nervous trying to get into it. But
yeah.
If you're going to do it, I think having Fred Rahmer and Moon Byers at the time to help out with the cars and have a good setup, to start was about 80-90% of it, besides me actually getting on the gas.
You named off two guys that are I would have been my corner if I were starting out.
Yeah,
for sure.
Oh yeah. I mean, if you think about it too, like most of the time your average 410 team, especially if somebody's like starting out, it takes about 5 to 7 years if they absolutely don't know what the hell they're doing. But if you got somebody in your corner that helps with car, knows what to do, sees you as a driver and can take it and know what they need to do for the next time you go out, makes things a hell of a lot easier. And for me, a lot of it, which I think what separated me and Freddie at the time, is my brother, he could set my dad's car up when he was 10 years old. So, it's easy to tell for him, or even just knowing, like, it's impressive. Like Freddie, he could go tell you, like, we went up to Utica Rome for an all-star race with my dad, and he could tell you what he had in that day.
Uh-oh. We'll wait for him to come back, because that was
Yeah.
about
that was about to be
So-
a really good story right
So-
there. Here he
Brandon-
comes. He's back. He's back.
He's back. We
All
need to
right.
pick that back up.
Yeah, my bad. What I was saying is, though, like, Freddie could tell you exactly what that car had that day, and just kind of a little bit more knowledge and stuff when it came to, where to be on the racetrack, what to look for, the kind of stuff that changed throughout the last couple years that he's tried with my dad, that he transitioned into his own deal with racing for Rich Eichelberger, or just the last couple years of him driving. So I kind of had, like I said, like, it's one thing to take, somebody could tell you something, but until you actually go out on the track and do it is two different things. For me, it was kind of like being a novice. Like in speedsters, I was kind of more, I'm just going to drive the thing and I'll figure out the rest later. But when it comes to 410s, anything you do affects the car, and it could either make you terrible or it can make you exceptionally good. But, or just even knowing what to feel when you make a change is something that I've gotten better in the last couple of years here. But if I think I knew a couple of years when I first started what to expect, and maybe that's either from running more or just paying a little bit more attention, and instead of playing football in the infield at Williams Grove.
The irony of that sentiment right there.
Yeah,
I mentioned that.
like,
I mentioned that earlier today. As like, I remember growing up. So Williams Grove infield. I don't even know if it was you were there or not. I know Freddie for sure. We're playing football in the infield growing up. I was like, I'm going to see if Brandon knows anything about football in the infield. But here we are. He played too much football. He played too much football. That's what it is.
Yeah, exactly. I could have been in the pits longer.
So you talked a little bit about, Freddie and his ability to remember some of these things, and, and how hands-on he was or was to maybe did that speed up his learning curve both off the track and on the track, you think, in a 410? Like where, obviously, so like, again, this is just going to I think everyone's going to compare you to, right? Like, I think it's easy for everybody, that any fan anywhere, to compare you guys side by side. And if we look at it, Freddie's had some success. He's had a lot of wins, and he runs up front a lot, right? And you're still in that learning curve you talked about a little bit. Where do you think you fall in that category, where you guys are two of triplets, right?
Triplets, yeah. I have a sister as well, the same age.
Okay, so were you just not around as much? Did you have other interests elsewhere? Did not want to go? Weren't there? To me, I would just think you're just side by side with Freddie and doing everything Freddie's doing, right? And it doesn't sound that way. What's that dynamic a little bit about that? You talked about the learning curve, and Freddie obviously had the 305 run racing to today, where you're usually like, hey, I'm still learning, I'm still picking this up, which you should be. It's not like you've been doing this 25 years driving. What is that dynamic like from then to get to now, where the differences were?
I'd probably say, like, during my younger years and stuff, it's probably just being a kid. Do I go work on the race car, or, like you said, play football in the infield? Looking back, obviously, I would love to change it. I mean, I think started helping my dad when I was around, probably around 14, 15. So I still had pretty good many years till he, decided to hang up his helmet. But really, like you said, just all that stuff and all that knowledge Freddie took, I think, is a huge advantage. But, it's just two different lengths for where Freddie's at versus me. But I think him racing a little bit more. But if I paid attention a lot more too, I think that would have been the difference. Now, I'm definitely a lot smarter. I feel like I got a little bit more under my belt. I don't really have the highlights that I'd like to at the moment. Some things happen over the years. You change setups, you try different stuff. Mm-hmm. I only race one night a week too. So bad habits, you could work out if you're running 2 or 3 nights a week versus one night a week, and it can transition on to the next, and you put more pressure on yourself. Just kind of stuff like that. It's not, like I said, it's just two different scenarios. We're two different people. I respect the hell out of what Freddie does. He's been a hell of a mechanic for my dad. He's been a hell of a driver the last couple of years. I'd love to be in his boat. He it's 100% deserves everything, and hopefully one day I'm there too. So.
Right. I never finished my question because, obviously you're doing your own deal, and a couple weeks ago, Brett Strickler was here talking about how him and Jordan navigated their racing stuff, where they both had their own deal. So for you and your racing program, obviously separate from Freddie, you're working towards a lot of things, but racing wise, you're obviously trying to have a, reputable career, but it seems like you have a lot going on outside the race car. Is that fair?
Yeah, it's a little different. I mean, Freddie's been running 2 nights at the minimum for the last 4 or 5 years. I kind of, with, chop designs and everything, it's kind of been a little bit more difficult. I mean, I'd love to make racing a career, but, life gets in the way. So it's kind of
right.
Graphics and doing vehicle wraps. That kind of helps me pay the bills. It paid for college when I was going through that. It's treated me really good. I hope to keep it growing, but just like you said, that's in all things. Racing always seems to be the most important thing, but my business and
right.
Building something for my life is got to
right.
go in front of it.
Right. It's easy for a guy like me to sit here and be like, oh, why aren't you racing more? Because the name, but next level, obviously you have all this stuff going on. It's just recognizing that stuff's great too. The racing stuff matters, but you seem to have your plan figured out, and it's really equally as cool to see from a guy like me.
Yeah, no, it's to me, like I said, I like getting creative with the graphics and everything. It's pays the bills really well. I just hope, if I eventually grow it, then I could transition to racing a little bit more, having a little bit more freedom if I eventually hire somebody and, try to not take a step back, but just let the business run itself. That's probably the biggest issue I got going on right now. It's just anybody that calls me for my work want to talk to me. They, it's easy. I know what they need, but like I said, it's eventually I got to make that transition, and I hope, I can do it as easy as possible. But
right.
Every direction I look, it's when you hire somebody, right. It's a lot more work. It's a lot more headaches. You got another mouth to feed. So I just want to make sure I do everything right. You can screw up in racing, then come back next week and it's all brand new, but you fuck up something in your life
right.
and in my business, then you can't turn back. So,
right. So I get that. And your ultimate goal is, I guess I'm hearing it, you want to race more. It's just finding the right time to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And honestly, like with my dad and stuff, like I said, he did well for himself in racing, and we obviously had really good sponsors at the time when both me and Freddie were running for him, but it wasn't going to be 2-3 nights of racing for both me and Freddie. So,
right.
If, like I said, Freddie, he was always devoted to racing a lot more than me. So one night a week is better than 0 nights a week when it comes to racing. So, that's kind of what we had to do at the time. This year, actually, we got pretty good sponsorship with Daikin and HVAC distributors. So I think we're going to be racing a lot more, probably about, I'm hoping 10 to 15 times at Williams Grove. We'll run full time at Lincoln and go away when we need to, that we might transition to places like Lernerville or just anywhere that kind of seems to be a good opportunity for our car to take in some money and just kind of change things up a little bit for our team. But, trying, like I said, this year seems to be in a good direction for me to change things up, get out of my just going to Lincoln deal. So, we'll see how it goes and hopefully get to drive more, for this year anyway.
This is your first year in the Travis Esh 5E, am I correct?
Second year.
Okay. So how was that transition going from the family car to that?
Like I said, it was a little rough this year. Towards halfway through the year, we started to kind of click a lot better. Travis and John, Todd and me, just everybody had their own opinions and stuff at first. And it kind of, got to be, oh, well, I heard this works. Well, this guy said this. And honestly, And my dad made a really good point. He talked to Bobby Allen a couple months ago, or probably a year ago, and he said that instead of everybody focusing on, what other people are doing, it's better to just focus on your program and perfect that. So that's kind of what we were doing later in the year. And it seemed to help. We were changing shocks, we were changing bars all the time, and it just wasn't, I couldn't feel the car, and it just really wasn't working out in the year. We had one good finish in the beginning, and then we kind of plateaued and came back a little bit at the end of the year. We started showing speed with the car, but I think all the stuff that we went through this year should be a lot easier transition. Them guys know what I kind of need as a driver. They kind of got in their heads, as the night goes on. Like, my biggest thing this year was probably just how we transition through the night. I know where to be in the beginning of the night. I know where to be at the end of the night. Everything in between was under debate. Like,
For sure.
It was easier just following off of what Freddie did for his car than transition over to my car. But when kind of trying to take the reins and learn how to do everything yourself and what is beneficial for the car during the night is, we definitely got 100% better. But, I'm hoping start of this year and stuff will be a little bit quicker out the gate, and that'll lead to, a lot better finishes and stuff. But, like I said, it's just a learning curve. Like I said, transition away from my dad and my brother, helping me out and everything was definitely.
Have a little bit of technical issues
Well, we
here.
got Jay-Z back, but
Yeah, we got Jay-Z back. I
Brandon.
know we lost Brandon. Brandon's back. Hold on.
Is it me dropping or what is
Yeah,
it?
I think it's you dropping. I can't tell.
All good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was just gonna say, like I said, it was just a big transition and stuff, getting away from my brother and my dad's stuff, and just kind of me and Travis focusing on what's beneficial for us, because my setup that might work for me might be totally different than what Freddie likes. So trying to figure that out and do what's best for our team is what we kind of had to figure out for ourselves. And like I said, I wish we would have caught on a little bit quicker, but I think, moving forward with this year and stuff, we should be in a lot better headspace, should be in a lot better, got our notebook filled in. So should be a good deal.
Go ahead, Jay-Z. I know you've been chomping a bit.
No, it's fine. It was just kind of just building on some of those questions. So got to know you guys and the team a little bit this past year, and there's some good nights and some struggle nights. And, the things you learned before you got with Travis and the team, things you had success with previously just not worked. Are you different chassis engine combo, shock combo? Was it kind of just relearning from scratch a little bit?
I'd say probably like Travis had a shock package that he wanted to try. We switched to Triple X in the beginning of the year. This year we're switching to Maxims because Travis always had success with Maxim cars. But really, like I said, we were kind of throwing darts at a board trying to figure out, my dad had a certain shock package. We got off of that. But, it was kind of a little bit of everything. Just kind of another thing too, just trying to figure out what needed to do throughout the night. Just a bunch of stuff. So I really couldn't pinpoint one or the other, but just everything started to work as one thing. And, like I can't say nothing bad about Triple X cars. I can't say nothing about Maxim cars, but if Travis wants Maxim cars, that's what we're going to get. And I'll believe him because he had success with it. So that's what we're going to do.
Seems like it's a fine line between getting it right and getting it wrong with these cars. They seem so simple, yet they're obviously pretty complicated, right? And it's like when you hit on something, you're like, okay, got it. Or when you're off, it feels like it could be one of, it feels like then the cars are super complicated and could have 50,000 things that you could change or want to adapt on. I mean, does it feel like that sites where you're just struggling and you just don't know what direction to kind of go between the multiple smart people involved, that it's just difficult to say, hey, this is the one thing we're missing? Is that fair to say, or is it more complicated than that?
Honestly, like I said, you could throw everything at the car and stuff. The more basic we kept the overall what we were doing with it, the easier things were. I mean, like I said, I have a lot of laps at Lincoln, but we went to the Grove, and I was buried way left. I couldn't really steer with the right front into the corner. And we only raced her about 5 or 6 times, but by the 5th or 6th time, I could finally feel the car. I could feel the car transition over the right rear. Like I said, I got to feel the right rear in order to feel stuck or have any drive. But, it's just, like I said, we kept it basic. We kept it simple. I could change every little thing. I could have a 31-inch bar. I could change freaking all the bars around the car. I could change shocks. Shocks, though, to me, like if I could feel a difference, I could feel a difference in the shocks. Like we tried twin tube shocks and we went back to gas shocks. But, like I said, twin tube for me, didn't really feel right. So we switched back because I've been running gas shocks since I started with 410. So it's kind of, that's kind of my comfort zone. Be just like anybody else, whatever you start with, you get comfortable with. But yeah, I mean, really, it's just keeping things basic. Honestly, like we went to Grandview and we were pretty good there. We only raced there once. Had a really good race with Brent Marks in our heat race. And honestly, it was a fun night just because everybody went in there with a clean conscience and, there was no expectations and we kept it basic and things went pretty well. So.
You've been around time as the racer, every and what the mental side of this, like in times where you're just like I don't want to do this anymore. There have been times where you're like, man, I don't care how bad this is, I'm going to do this forever. What are those nights like when it's just not going well for you? Like, how do you keep your keep your like, hey, there's going to be a next week? How does that work for you?
Yeah, I'm probably a nutcase, so it's kind of, it's
that's our kind of guy.
It's if you believe in the car, you could do anything with it. And honestly, if you're not mentally there, doesn't matter what the mechanic does because you ain't gonna get the car to work if you're not driving it right or you're in the right headspace. But no, it's like I said, it's crazy. I mean, you know how it goes. It's 1 year a guy's on fire, the next year he comes back and he can't do anything right. So that's kind of what keeps racing exciting. It's crazy to think how some guys you don't think are going to be really good racers, and they come back next year, they lose a little bit of weight, they get themselves in the right headspace, and you can't beat them. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You don't know what the hell they did, but it's just totally different,
So,
It's interesting.
Yeah, something away from the track. So, Chop Design. How long you been in business with that?
Legal only about 3, but I've probably been doing stuff with graphics for since 16 years old, and I'm 26 now. So the jobs have gotten a lot more complex. There's been a lot more customers. And like I said, I do a little bit of everything. It's not just race cars. I was fortunate enough to get hooked up with Hyper Racing. I do a lot of 600s for them. I just finished most of the cars for, pretty much all the cars now with Tulsa starting, but I did a big tow wrecker for, no, I did tow wreckers. I do Porsches down in Jersey. Do a lot of police and fire vehicles for a guy in Boyertown. Did a couple boat wraps. Just, you don't know, you'll get a call one day and, hey, I want you to do this, and yep, I'll do it. So it's cool. It really keeps things interesting. I travel around a lot, like a lot of things. Like I'm 2 hours away from Lincoln, Williams Grove, and most of the people that race or drive cars. So I kind of travel a lot. Like I can get probably 2 cars done. It takes about 4 hours to letter your average sprint car, but I'll travel around. Like I said, I go down to Delaware and do a lot of stuff with Betts Garage. Pioneer Polding, they give me good work here and there. Transfleet, Concrete, them guys, I do like mixers and stuff. I mean, I never thought I'd do all that kind of stuff, but like I said, it pays the bills. They're great customers, and like I said, it keeps growing. So I don't even like most of this stuff is word of mouth, and it's a lot easier when you have people involved in racing because if you think about it, you know, somebody that owns an electrical company, you know, somebody that owns a
Right.
graphics company, a masonry, you know, it's endless. And honestly, like your racing group is so tightly knit. You know, like just like Bet's Garage with towing, you know, he helps out a lot of people and stuff, and he networks himself. He's got a great business down in Delaware. But, you know, I knew him from Ed Aiken. He helped me get hooked up with him, and I let her all his tow vehicles. I let her his race car too. But, you know, he gives me a lot of work and stuff. Just like with Body Motion, I told you, I let her Porsches down in Jersey. That's Dave Reinhardt, Kyle Reinhardt's dad. He helped me get into there and keep customers happy. So really most of my connections are through racing, and it's cool because it's easy to talk to these customers. I, you know, got something to connect with them with, and you know, they kind of know me on going to the races all the time, but it's also different when you deal with somebody through business. So, you know, I got a good transition into things, and, you know, some people come to me and they don't know who the hell I am and just know me for quality of work, but it works out end of the day.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's cool how kind of things have been growing. So I'm hoping, like I said, to keep growing as the year goes on.
So where did the name Chop come from? How did you come up with that?
My mom, she used to call me Chop all the time when we were growing up. So it's just
Okay.
like Yak Graphics out in California. His name's Tony Yankowski. So Yak, and I guess he talks a lot, is what I hear from but you know, I kind of wanted to. I didn't want to name it BR Graphics. I didn't want to name it Rahmer Graphics. I kind of want to keep it something that's, you know, a little close to home. You know, I liked, you know, my mom, as we were growing up and stuff, she used to call me that all the time. So kind of just makes it personal. And like I said,
Yeah.
just I wanted a cool nickname. So
Something different.
Yeah, exactly.
So being an entrepreneur, you talked about that earlier. You know, you're 27, right? You said you're 27.
Turning 27. Yep.
You're an entrepreneur and you're like knee deep in it. You're not going to get away from it anytime soon. So that's like probably hopeful. And that's a good thing that you're that involved and it's going successfully, because that's ultimately that life is more important than racing. If it's not your career, right? If you're racing for a career, then you're going to do some things around life with that. So you're an entrepreneur, you got a good business, and I hear there's a marriage coming up.
Yeah, we're leaving about a week to go to Jamaica, so we're gonna go get married down there, and you know, spend Beck, what are we spending? 7 days down there? 7 days. So
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So I knew this was coming, and actually we just had Kody. If you listen to the end of that a little bit, he was talking about, you know, we're not going to divulge too many details here, but you're scheduled to be around his area in the next week, maybe. Won't talk about too much there. We talked about it briefly, and it was funny that I may have seen a preview of the scheme, and it had Chop Design right there, and I'm like, huh. How things come full circle. We're talking about this tonight. So
I let her too many people's cars. So I'm glad that he actually came on board last year and do up his stuff, make it look good for a change.
Yeah, got him.
Agreed.
Got him. The closer.
So,
you can't even fight back.
Something you mentioned earlier with Daikin and HVAC distributors. So I know this past season that 6-8 races maybe, and I know you and I talked throughout the season that you really wanted to present something to them for 2023, and it sounds like that really came through. So hopefully that little I did a little video for Brandon, Jimmy, and Chris. If you don't know, did a little video for Brandon. Hopefully that was played a tiny little part in helping out this year with Daikin and HVAC. And I know, so Becca, your fiance, soon to be wife, her dad, right, Todd?
Yep.
I got it right. And
Yep.
he is involved with that company a little bit. Like how does Todd help out with the team and the connection there?
He works at HVAC distributors that
Okay.
obviously sells Daikin heating and air equipment, but he's kind of our connection into Daikin and stuff. Like they have certain, you know, advertising money that they got to spend throughout the year or else they lose it. And that was kind of our connection last year. And we did I think we had about 10 or 15 races between Lincoln and running the Grove. But this year they're going to be on the car the whole year.
Awesome.
You know, we were able to travel a little bit more with them. They help us out a lot. And I'm just, like I said, it's a good partnership. You know, they got expectations and we'll hopefully be able to keep them, and we should be able to keep them. But like I said, it's just hoping growing this between me and Dyken and HVAC and Todd, and hopefully just keep it going because, like you said, you need everything you can nowadays. It's obviously getting harder to week in, week out of racing, especially if tires are going up in price to another 12%. So, this should help out a lot besides just running Lincoln. And I told you about them races that we're running, a little bit more at the Grove. We're going to travel. We're like Dyken, on top of the money they gave us, is going to give money back to the racetracks too. So it's not just like, one and here's, some money and stuff to go run. It's, hey, we want to put on a show at the Grove. We want to put on a show at Lernerville, all different locations in PA where HVAC Distributors has one of their obviously locations that they can tie into their business and help advertise. So really it's just a good deal. It's hard to find a sponsor that wants to help out with the race car along with wanting to give back to racetracks. My dad kind of did it good with Leffler Energy. They obviously sponsored my dad, but they also helped out with the racetracks and they gave water truck and stuff. So just like I said, it's just a cool sponsor. They did some IMSA cars a couple years ago that didn't pan out too well, but I'm hoping that, like I said, there's a lot of HVAC businesses that buy Dyken equipment and stuff from those guys that it all can tie in. And, I'm hoping we can market it very well, that it all works out for everybody, and it should.
So the photographer guy, the white car photos really well. Your black and green car was pretty badass, but without, you don't have to spoil anything or put it out there, but will the Dyken HVAC Distributors be on the car all season? Are you going to do white based? Are you going to have one scheme first of all? And if you are, is one of them going to be mainly white?
It's going to be one scheme and it's going to be mostly white. Yep.
My man. Let's go. Let's go. Listen, the black car photoed really well because of the green and the blue. Like, I have a lot of really good pictures of that black and green and car, but that white car, man, it just pops. So earlier you talked about the Williams Grove and the left rear drive and all the being left. There was a night at the Grove. It had to be one of the first 3 races of the season you were there, and watch you go down the front stretch. And that thing, I'm telling you, it had to be 2 feet off the ground, the right front, it looked like. And I tried to get a good picture of the damn thing, and it was too dusty. None of them came out right. I even took a picture, and I saved it because it's a crappy picture, but I saved it as one of those I wish I would have gotten kind of pictures. That thing was just like, I don't even know how you could see out of the front of it. You had to be looking at the sky. Is that like, you probably weren't, but is that unsettling knowing like, hey, this thing has to land and I got to turn? Is that unsettling a little bit?
I mean, honestly, to go into the turn and stuff, kind of the way we used to set up the cars, the right front used to push off the ground all the time, and then it would smack down going in the turn. Then you had to re-steer. But I mean, mostly it's just like I said, if you're too far left, you're not really steering that well going in the turn. Like every time I feel like I'm fast, I steer in with the right front and I can enter on the gas with it. And you're not cheating it or nothing like that. But yeah, I mean, it's not fast anymore. Like, what do you think's better, 4 tires on the ground or 3? So you definitely have more control when it comes to 4. But I don't know what we had in it for the first 4 races. But like I said, towards the end and stuff, it was definitely a lot better. I love racing Williams Grove. It's a technical racetrack. I always felt like I kind of ran better there when I did go. But you got a little bit more time to think down the straightaway. And when the track's right, I don't care what anybody says. I think it put on the great racing. It's just a matter of widening out through the night to make it that way, Yeah. But I mean, most of the time now, it doesn't matter whether you go to Williams Grove or Lincoln or Baps. It just feels like the dirt has changed, and I'm sure the tires changing has a way of doing it too and plays a factor. But it just doesn't widen out like it used to. It stays grittier. Until 10, 15 laps to go, that's when you can feel, and I'm being generous with 10 or 15 laps, that's when you can finally feel that you can race and actually pass people. But it's just, like I said, it's just the way, what you got to get used to. That's the way the PA tracks are now. Grandview, their racetrack seems to always be fairly consistent, and their racetrack was a little bit more grittier this year, but we were only there once till the top went away, and then it was kind of just mostly around the bottom. But I don't know. It's just different deals now. I can't get the car to go when the track's really dirty and it's got all that loose, crumbly stuff around. It's not stuck to me. It doesn't feel comfortable. I'm sure that's what half the guys in Ohio got to deal with. They don't build up no heat in their tires or anything, and I'm sure they got more wheel spin than us. But when the track's clean, it's easy to get the car set up and get it to stick and up on the right rear and go. But just different deal.
So at the end of the season, you took a pretty hard tumble. Was it might have the last race or second to last race? You took a pretty hard tumble. You pretty good in that one. I saw you walked away, but were you banged up at all in that one?
Yeah, a little bit. I got enough, cushion and stuff. I absorbed the impact, but I smacked the right rear. I got a little too high. The curb in 3 and 4 was a little too high, and I either misjudged or it slid a little bit in, and there was only about a foot of playroom, and screwed up. But that's not the first time I screwed up on the last race of the year. I took out 2 telephone poles. I think my first or second year, and going in a 3. So something with that turns gets to me. That was
a pretty bad. I was actually in 3 and 4 that night, and that was from where I was standing. You took a pretty good tumble there, and that cushion, like you said, you had about a foot left, and you used about a foot and a half of it. So exactly. You weren't alone though. It looked sketchy to me. Like the whole second half of that feature looked sketchy through 3 and 4. A lot of guys had a lot of close calls, and it was like I like cringed a couple times, like, oh, somebody's going to get it, and you were that guy. So unfortunately,
you get the medal.
Yeah, you get the award that time. Listen, but it wasn't many this year. There was a lot more that ate it more often in 3 and 4 than I feel like I remember seeing in recent years. 3 and 4. So kind of leads me to this question: the Lincoln track prep. They've stopped really messing with that track a lot here the last probably 2 years. What are your thoughts on that? I feel like fans hated when they knocked the cushion down. They smoothed it out, they wanted it to be wider. I feel like it didn't leave much left for 358s. Not that that's your problem, but I feel like it's had to build a curb up here this last year and a half when they kind of stopped touching it throughout the night for the most part. What are your thoughts on that? And like, am I right? Or am I in the ballpark with saying that?
Yeah, I mean, you know how hard it is. I mean, throughout the year and stuff, all the conditions change when it comes to weather, how the dirt absorbs moisture, what Fred does with the racetrack and everything obviously determines, what division is there and stuff. Like some nights, like 358s, they widen out the racetrack, but when you have legend cars there, they don't really do nothing to the racetrack. The Thunder cars, when they used to be there about 10 years ago, they would at least bring back the moisture that came up through the track. So, and, track prep and stuff, I think they used to put a lot more calcium down. They used to do stuff that would suck up and keep the moisture, and the track would stay pretty good. It actually felt like clay. But, the track to me felt racy most of the time this year. The only thing hard is, like I said, if the track to me isn't wide enough, you can't do nothing really on the bottom. Like to me, the bottom in 3 and 4 is like a death sentence, unless you're kind of driving across. Yeah. Really, and it's just like with how these guys race nowadays, it's all momentum. So if you're not building up your speed as quick as you can, like you can't run 30 laps on the bottom unless it's completely blown off and say, hey, I'm going to win this race. Yeah. So, this year you had to, and the last 2 years, I think you got to move around a lot more. You got to put your car in a position that, do I want to run 5th tonight or do I want to win? That happens in the first 5 laps. Some nights I try to make evasive maneuver. Other nights, I'll give it half a lap and maybe them guys will stop racing with each other so I can get in there. But, I think, like I said, now that our cars are better and stuff, we'll be able to make those kind of moves. But, back to the surface and stuff, I thought it was pretty good. Like I said, earlier on in the night, especially like middle of the summer, the tracks are obviously a lot drier. When they get that crumbly stuff on, it's, I don't know if you just don't have enough push trucks to kind of go around and either spritz it and work it down. But then if you spritz it, that'll bring up more dust. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard. It ain't an easy job, or else they'd be able to get it right
every time. Right.
Every night.
Yeah.
But if they put in a good effort, just like I said, if just like the drivers and all the crew guys and stuff that put in a good effort to make sure the car is good, it should all work out. Which they did. What they have, they put out an effort. I'm just
For sure.
hopefully this is good. So
Yeah, and it's funny watching. You were talking about how guys drive today, momentum, and the way the track, the way it's changed. I grew up. I'm 40, so I grew up watching your dad just roll the bottom year after year and race after race after race, and it worked, right? Even if no one else was, he was able to make that work for, I don't care if it was a 20, 25, 30, 35, 40 lap race. He was sort of the master at it, right? Whereas like we always talked about, Brian Monteith was the master at the wall. Your dad was that guy. It was just didn't matter what was going on. He could make it work. And you don't see that very often anymore. And it seems like it's monkey see, monkey do, that when one guy finds it, they all go, all of you go, and it's a train, right? So there hasn't been many times like lately. I think Brent did it once this year when he ran Larson down. What race was that? Was that a Speed Week show?
I think that was a Speed Week, second
the Speed Week show, where
Yep.
he kind of ran Larson down on the bottom, but you don't see that very much anymore. Do you attribute that to the track, the cars, both the drivers, a different generation? What do you think causes that?
Probably a little bit of both. Like you said, I mean, your driving style now has got to be go, go, go. I mean, when my dad was racing his last year, he was really good on the bottom, and he would actually float to the top and hit the curb. When he was a little younger and stuff, he'd four over the curb.
Yeah.
But I mean, like I said, the racetrack, you obviously got to be a smart driver and read the racetrack. I think Brent found the bottom with a couple laps to go and stuff and was able to chase down Larson. I mean, I honestly, like with Larson and stuff, he obviously set the bar for how hard he drives throughout the night. So, it's like if you're running locally, versus like World of Outlaw stuff where you got to be on top of the wheel all the time, you sometimes slow down. So, everybody nowadays is a family-owned team, or, they only got one or two cars back home. So they kind of race differently than somebody that would come in and, I got 6 cars and 8 motors back at home. What the hell do I care if I wear this thing out? Like, we got to go to Port Royal this year, and it's my first time up at Port Royal. I never raced there, but now if it was Port Royal 2-3 years ago where you got to putt around the bottom and keep up your speed that way, now it's I'm going to go knock out an axle. I go
Right.
at the wall.
Right.
It comes up so close, and you have no trial for error. So I'm hoping it ain't going to be like at the end of the year like it was last year. But we'll see what happens. I'm excited. Like all these new racetracks and stuff. It gives me a little bit different approach. I just, like I said, going to Lincoln for the last 3 to 4 years, only kind of, you kind of get stuck in your bubble, and I need something that just kind of gets me out of that, and I can kind of improve myself. Like I said, if you're quickest when you're got a clean head and just drive the car like you should instead of overthinking, oh, well, I'm not going to stick if I run the top at Lincoln on the first lap, but you just do it when you're at somewhere else or just don't think about it anymore, so it's completely different.
I have one last question. I'll let these guys finish up, and we'll get to some thanks and kind of your 2023. What is your driving style in your mind? What kind of driver are you? What is your style? Do you think about that? Do you kind of categorize yourself at all in any of that?
Probably I wouldn't compare myself to anybody. I really haven't really even thought of that. I know that, just like I said, me and Freddie are two different drivers. Like I said, I'm a little bit more conservative when it comes to the car, but if I wreck the thing, I'm the only one that's going to be fixing it. So that kind of got me stuck, just racing for my dad and stuff. It'd be different if you race for somebody and then, they don't care if you tear up 3 or 4 of them. But yeah, I wouldn't say anybody in comparison. It's kind of interesting too. And I was thinking in the back of my mind, between like when my dad had Stevie Smith drive for him versus when my dad drove his last year, my dad would run the dead bottom. Stevie would run the whole half a lane up, and Stevie, when he drove the top, would be completely on the top versus my dad floating up to it and stuff. Still being able to keep up with his momentum, just a totally different racer, totally different driver. But at the end of the day, they still got the same exact results done. They're still winning races. So,
Yeah.
should I drive one-handed sometimes the way I am with the car? Like I got that in-car video that it's a little different, but I just got like monkey arm, so I think that's probably why I do it. But just I never even thought about comparing myself to somebody, but hopefully just being me is enough. So
No, and it is, and I really wasn't saying like, hey, do you compare like, hey, someone's results or whatever, more of like a stylistic. Would you rather rip the top if it was your preference, or would you rather run the bottom, or is it, hey, I just want to pass the car, I don't care how the hell I do it?
yeah, I mean, honestly, if the car feels good, you can go anywhere. So I mean,
Yeah.
I kind of the last couple of years and stuff, just I do like running the top and everything, but really the most fun, like when you're at Lincoln and stuff, is when you can move anywhere and just pass cars and move on to the next guy. But yeah, I ain't got a preference. If the car feels good, that's when you're having fun and that's when you're passing. So.
And you talked about Lincoln, and I apologize, and I've heard different views on this. Is turn 1 and 2 harder, or 3 and 4 harder at Lincoln? Because I think from a distance, if you sat outside as a fan, you look at those two corners and you're like, it's an oval. But I think all of us sitting here, and you're the most likely to know this, it's very different. Both ends of that track, entry and exit to both sides. What's the most difficult for you, most challenging for you to figure out?
I'd probably say with 3 and 4. 1 and 2 to me is more fluent. It doesn't have as much banking and stuff, but it seems a little bit wider. It's to me, just like Williams Grove. 1 and 2 Williams Grove is a lot more fluent. Then you get to 3 and 4, it's a lot tighter corner. I think like if Lincoln would move in the fence in 3 and 4 and make it more fluent, just like 1 and 2, it'd be a lot easier. So you don't got to wait into the center as much to get off. But then again, too, driving across and keeping up your speed is what you got to do different there. But it's like I said, it's just like anything. It's two different deals. It's might be at the same time, but it's two different things that you got to try to adapt to when you go there. But I've been going there forever, so it's kind of
Right.
On average, how many times a year do you hit the inside wall trying to figure out 3 and 4?
too many.
Too many. Chris, Jimmy, I'll throw it to you guys. What do you got?
Well, I guess my thing, kind of piggybacking on what Brandon just said there. Brandon, you talked about all the years going to Lincoln, obviously watching your dad's career. So it's a two-parter. Question 1, obviously his National Open win was huge for him. How big was that for you growing up, going to races with him every week and knowing how much that race meant? And then my follow-up would be, what would be your favorite race to win?
I mean, I honestly think with my dad and stuff, everything that kind of came together for that National Open win, like Brent Kading came in, my dad's really good friend Cajun came in, and just being the last year and stuff. And after racing for somebody else and getting fired and then coming back next year with a really strong year, obviously you can't really get no more emotional with that.
Right.
And, I never honestly see my dad that excited before. So it was definitely, like I said, one of the coolest experiences I ever had. My mom was a wreck, it was
right. Like from a
was a
fan
cool-
perspective, it was nuts because we knew how much that publicly meant to him. And then to have it happen, and then you hear it in Victory Lane, like, Lynn Paxton, the whole thing is like, so I was just intrigued from your side, like what that was like.
I mean, if you're writing a book, that's the way you'd write it, right? I mean, and we all got to see that. You yourself closer to all of us, but like, it was just like it's hard to explain, but yeah, I mean, it was a storybook. I mean, you can't make that up. It almost makes you, when we look at like NASCAR and professional sports and saying something's rigged and it was meant to be, that's as close as we got to it in Central PA as far as sprint cars go, right? Like it felt that way.
Yeah, I mean, my dad, that was the only race my dad never won. So kind of, he checked everything off his list. But on your second question, I'd probably say I'd like the Dirt Classic and stuff since, like I said, that's the biggest race at Lincoln. And honestly, I just like the coin that Moose Blocks makes. That's the coolest trophy in the world. And, it's just like the Chili Bowl. They only make $10,000, but they get a driller. So just the sentimental value of it's the coolest thing.
That's awesome. I love to hear that because That's the first guy that hasn't said the National Open, and I'm here for it. Let's go.
Well, he only raced Lincoln most of the time. What do you think?
Right.
Well, yeah.
Everyone else is like,
Yeah.
even Jaden Wolf is like, National Open. Like, they're classic. I love it. I'm here for it.
We'll do this interview 365 days from now after you ran almost a bunch of races at Williams Grove and see if you feel the same way.
Even better.
See if the National Open isn't the one.
When he wins the Dirt Classic, like, that's National Open.
Yeah, I checked that off the list. That's done. Speaking of you talked about Tulsa and you talked about the Chili Bowl a little bit. Is that something you'd ever want to do?
I honestly probably would rather travel with the 410 somewhere than doing the Chili Bowl. Yet, to me, it's kind of, I'm not as adaptable as most, but, I rather go somewhere. Like we went out to Kokopah the one year, and that was a cool experience. Besides just racing, we were out in freaking Arizona, and it was a good time, but not really. That really doesn't entice me.
We'll not ask about a win, but what would be a track you'd want to go to just to race at right now if you could?
I'd probably say, like, what the hell would I say? I'd probably like to try Knoxville.
Yeah.
Knoxville would be a good choice. Volusia would be a little too fast. So I got races under my belt. It's crazy how them guys go down there for, 144 mile per hour average and then do that right at the beginning of the year.
Insane, isn't it?
Like Freddie, he went out to Tulare and raced, and just seeing him race a 360 at Tulare, I'm like, nah, this California.
I'm gonna stay home.
I'll stay in the cold.
Yeah,
Jimmy.
You talked a little bit about trying to get out for next year, obviously, and you mentioned two tracks, Grandview and Lernerville, who happen to have a high limit race. Are those two races in the cards? And I just would like to hear your perspective on what high limit can mean for sprint car racing as a whole.
Grandview will definitely be on the race schedule. Lernerville, I think we're doing a speed week race there. I think that's the 3,000 to win one. But, the high limit stuff to me seems, like I said, it's all for the beneficial, of sprint car racing. I don't know the issue with the Outlaws and the high limit deal and everything is stepping on each other's toes. But, honestly, I think sprint cars, if you're a top tier team, should be able to show up wherever the hell you want to, wherever the hell the most amount of money is. Say, I get to race there and then go home. It shouldn't be, I understand the way the traveling series stuff is too, but you're going to go where the money is. So that's how it used to be. Why can't it be now?
Right. Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I don't understand the limiting of it. It just sounds silly to me. But so tell us a little bit about, we've held you up long enough, by the way. Thank you for all this time. Getting to know you and your story a little bit. And we couldn't be more happy that you were willing to do this. So thank your sponsors, man. Shout out who helps you get up and down the road, literally this year. Who's going to help you out?
Like I said, the big ones now are Daikin and HVAC's distributors. We have another one actually on the way, hopefully, that we're working on. We're going to figure out in January.
Awesome.
But Pioneer Pole Buildings, Livingston Lawn Care, Spectral Oils, Gene Latta, all them guys helped last year and stuff, and hopefully keep them on this board this year and keep them happy. Hopefully see how it goes, and it's all for the better.
All right, great. We did get two fan questions, if we could get to them before you go. Kelly Donnelly asked earlier, hey, Brandon, who is your engine builder and what shocks do you use?
We use Kistler Race Engines with Travis. He's got a good relationship with them. And we use Cage Suspension, Drew. So he helping us out this year and getting us on the right track.
Is that a new partnership with Cage, or did you finish the season with that?
We finished the season with that. And Drew, like I said, he's real responsive. And like I said, everybody in the country seems to be running his stuff. And like I said, he's transparent with everything and, helps us out. So, yeah, pretty much, he's helped us out a good bit.
I feel like we talked with Troy Wagaman a few weeks ago. I don't know if you caught any of that or heard it, but he noticed we talked about that a lot, about like the middle of his season, just like, he went to the Cage stuff with Drew, and it just all sort of came together for him with what they were on their track with. So, sprint car racing, I mean, you've lived it your whole life, is a lot of monkey see, monkey do. And I think KH right now is that item. The only other one I've heard of lately is Titan Wings. Not to support that. I don't know anything about anything, but I feel like those are the two big ones the last maybe 6 months that I've heard of. Is there another one that you've kind of seen a trend of like, hey, they're doing it, we're all doing it?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, Drew would be the only one that I probably paid attention to from Cage
Yeah.
that, hey, he's on Brent Marks' stuff. Then he's on Troy's stuff. Wings to me, I'm on Roach wings, and his wings have always been good for the last freaking years.
Yeah.
But I ran Top Flight wings, which is what Titan wings were when I was with my dad. But yeah, you know how it is. It's monkey see, monkey do in racing. Everybody,
For sure.
like when my dad would come out with something, and then next week, the next guy would have it that's parked right aside of us. It's like, oh man, we don't even know what it does yet, and here you are having it. You know?
I'll never forget. I will never forget a story. This is years and years and years ago. Your dad won at Lincoln one night, and just that thing was ripping off the bottom. I mean, just would drive right. One of those vintage just roll the bottom nice and easy, just a rocket off the bottom, right? And he gets in victory lane and says, got this special winner's rear end in it or something, whatever. And it was like people in the stands were going, oh my God. I bet there was a whole pit road full of winners rear ends the next week. There had to be. I will never forget that. Like, you don't hear a ton of that in victory lane these days about it was something super unique and special. And hell, knowing your dad, it probably wasn't anything. It was probably the same shit he'd been running for 2 years, but he may have been playing mind games. I feel like that's something your dad would have done, but
definitely
it is
right foot mind games.
That stood out to me that night. And I feel like it's still that way a little bit when there's something new, fresh, and somebody wins with it. It's like, oh my God, what are we missing here?
Yeah, and honestly, like now that I think about it, I'd say a lot of people have been switching to Maxims that I've been paying attention to. Like we've had we're still waiting on cars and stuff. But I think Sheldon switched. I think Sam Haferty switched. That'd be another good, choice of what the hell's popular nowadays. But as far as I'm seeing, so
interesting.
Right, and Jimmy, the second question you had there.
We had one from Brad, and this was going back to talk about track prep earlier. Do you think tracks were keeping it wetter intentionally to use less tire due to the shortages?
Other than Ohio.
Yeah, Ohio. I think they were, but I think they kind of got away from it. I don't know. It's, to me, our tire wear, it doesn't matter what they did. I couldn't take the two tires. I maybe could have taken the left rear, but I had to throw away the right rear. So it's going to be interesting with the new tires, how they're going to pan out. I don't really know if, like I said, if they're going to be a stiffer sidewall, I think that's going to be good for, guys, you might not be as rolled up as much. It's nice that they're going to be interchangeable so you can flip them back and forth. But to me, it's, if guys are going to sipe it and they're going to groove it to try to get that tire to work quicker, it's going to be the $400 now that instead of I wouldn't bitch about when the tires were $236 anymore, and I thought that was expensive during the time, but it's just, I don't know how it's going to pan out. I don't know how they're going to do it with the supply we still have left over versus when they're going to do the new supply versus when the Outlaws do their first swing around. That's what you're stuck on, but then you don't got no input on how the tires work, and then you're racing with the Outlaws. Like, there's a lot of questions, and I'm sure they'll come out with some answers, but for right now, it's not, I don't know. It's like we just figured out how to do some stuff with our car to get it to work with these tires, and then they come out, and now it's a whole new thing, which is great because it's going to switch some guys up. It's going to help some, hurt others, and honestly, I hope it benefits the sport. If they say you can reuse tires twice a night, I'm all for it, but we just don't know. So.
Don't know. What are your thoughts on the fire suppression system, and are you prepared to run it for day one, or is this something you're going to put in for outlaw stuff?
Like I said, you never want to cheap out on safety. I think it's a good thing. I don't know how, like I said, it's hard with sprint car racing. It's just like when they put in all these new safety bars, you can't really test anything until something bad happens.
Right.
I'm really not going to be putting it in until the Outlaws come in. I'm going to try to keep the car as light as possible. I'm down 25 pounds.
Good for you.
Off season, so I'm trying to keep the car light, but it'll be in there for the Outlaws and the bigger events that require it.
Let's be honest, you lost the pounds for the wedding and the photos for that, didn't you? It was just for get the tux to fit a little better.
I'll say that now just because Beck is listening. It was for the racing.
Hey man, appreciate you so much. Thanks for taking the time with us. can't wait to see you in Victory Lane, man. You're due, and I think you guys are going to figure this out. I know that's a good team you got behind you, and I think there's definitely good days ahead this year. I think you pick a win off of Williams Grove. That's my prediction. You're going to pick a win off of Williams Grove this year.
For it.
And Chris's favorite track, I did that for him.
And I'm there every single night, so I will burn down Victory Lane, and I will see you there.
Yeah,
awesome.
I'm hoping that too. That's like I said, I got a couple seconds at the Grove, but I haven't won there yet, so that one would probably be top of the list for me. So I appreciate that.
Guy.
Well, awesome. Hey, happy holidays, happy New Year. Enjoy the wedding. Get some time away from everything. Enjoy that weather while we're up here freezing our ass off.
Thank you so much for joining us.
We'll be thinking of you.
No problem, guys. Thanks for having me on,
buddy.
Take
care,
Brandon.
Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Kody, as well. I want to thank everybody here. Thank you, Brad and Kelly who chimed in with some questions, and all you guys who have been chiming in with comments. Really appreciate everybody watching us live. If you're not watching us live and you're listening to us later, make sure you give us a like. Please subscribe. Please share. We're trying to grow this thing a little bit, and we're working pretty hard at it. So we want to appreciate everything that everybody does to help us out. And we hope you guys are enjoying the show. So
Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all of it. Just go find us.
A few extra minutes tonight. Probably asked Brandon 63,000 questions there, but super insightful. He's a young guy doing a lot of stuff, and he's been around racing his whole life. But we're a racing podcast, but his life is a lot about racing and non-racing, which is listen. And everybody we've had on here has a job. We haven't had any career racers on here yet, but for a guy who grew up literally in the middle of lived and breathed racing, you can tell that he tries to balance that, and that's really respectable, because it would just be easy to just be racing, right? And what he does. So super cool. Looking forward to Kody. I think, I talked about Kody there and his consistency this past year. And I think Kody wins 6 races this year somewhere, whether it's Williams Grove or Lincoln. I think he's going to win 6 races if the equipment stays together. He could have won 5. He could have won 5 this past year. Yeah. They're just, and that's how hard it is in Central PA to win races. And, you look at the year Cam Smith had, he did win 6 races at Lincoln.
Right.
That's incredible. Think about that. And to win it in that division, things go right, pass the right cars, made the right decisions, the heat races, the draws, the everything. Kody has that ability to do that, and he has the equipment and he has the program. I think Cody's going to win multiple races this year, and it could be at both tracks, more than 2 tracks. I don't know if going to race maybe enough outside of Williams Grove and Lincoln to do it in 358, because you never know with weather and how that goes. But I think both of these guys, 2023 could be quite the season for both of them. And it was pretty awesome to see Brandon with the sponsorship and being able to expand a little bit this year. Man, that's good news.
Yeah. It's exciting. I'm excited to see both of them, because as a guy who came into this, didn't know much about either one other than what I saw last year. I'm excited for Kody getting a good shot to have a full season plus the 410 races. And Brandon, he understands how to drive. He's won 3 races. He knows. Now he's got a chance to go out and do it. And that's awesome to see.
Even clearing his mind about just racing somewhere else. I think that's
right. That
awesome. Alone is just going to be a mental boost. It sounds like, just to roll into the track, unload at something different, and not have any preconceived notions the week before, the race before, the whatever before, and just go. Like he talked about, was at the Grandview race where he just rolled out a trailer and went and battled Brent for the heat, right? Just drive. And that I can understand that, a little bit of doing the same thing, expecting different results is the definition of insanity, right? So I would imagine, like he said, staying in that bubble at Lincoln sometimes can just get okay, I got to do something different. So that's pretty cool.
But my hot take is Kody Hartlaub, Jeff Gordon fan. So creeping up the list.
That's it. That's what he got out of this. I mean, come on.
I just had to put that back out there.
Any future drivers that are looking to come on, if you want your way to Chris Lynn's heart, just say that you like Jeff Gordon.
Oh,
there you go.
God, it's
JG.
disturbing.
Dakota thought it was for Jordan Givler. Jordan Givler's up there, but JG.
Oh my God.
JG wouldn't run his colors.
No, he
JG.
No, he wouldn't.
Well, The real JG does. Mint.
Rainbow only.
Effing mint. Effing mint.
All right. Keep an eye on socials for the next episode.
Yes.
We're gonna have some cool stuff coming.
Yep.
We're not sure. Just keep an eye on socials. That's all I can say. We have some
Definitely
things lined
Thursday. Come back Thursday. We should have next week's guests lined up and released then. Correct?
up. Well,
Yep.
I mean,
It's definitely
you have
correct.
to
I just said
wait
it.
and see. I guess.
I guess you have to wait and see.
Oh, I
We'll see.
just said it. So
I do
Thanks
want
everybody
to.
tuning in.
This is our last show of 2022. We'll see you all in 2023. Thanks for checking us out. Have a good